everybody. We're going to go ahead and get this meeting started. This is the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held March 7, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Cottonwood Recreation Center. Folks, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. If you could please have a seat. It's tough to hear with the crowd. Do I have a gavel? I don't have a gavel. Folks, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, first order of business is roll call.
Councilmember DeWillis.
Here.
Councilmember Duvernay.
Here.
Councilmember Henry.
Here.
Councilmember Karat.
Present.
Councilmember Naren.
Here.
Vice Mayor Weldon.
Here.
And Mayor Linsky.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, please stand to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next up, we have a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Council members, do you have anything to report this evening? No? Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. If you live, shop, work, and play in Cottonwood, then you're invited to attend the general plan update public meetings. These meetings allow the public to give input and learn about particular topics included in the updated general plan. The next meeting will be on Thursday, March the 9th at 6 p.m. and Saturday, March the 11th at 10 a.m. For future meeting updates, please visit cottonwoodaz.gov. Local business owners are invited to join the City of Cottonwood and the Greater Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce at their first Lunch and Learn event this Wednesday, March the 15th at noon at the Spring Hill Suites. Join us for a tasty lunch catered by the Chihuahua Mexican food and learn about our first topic, finding and keeping employees at your businesses in Cottonwood and the Verde Valley. Visit cottonwoodchamberaz.org to register for more information. The Cottonwood Police Department and Community Development Department will be hosting a Community Safety Information Night on Wednesday, March the 29th at 6 p.m. at the Riverfront Water Reclamation Facility. Come and learn about important safety tips for your home, such as increased security measures and discussion about carbon monoxide. If you have any questions, please call Anthony at 928-634-5505. The annual Easter Extravaganza is taking place next month on April the 8th at Riverfront Park. All kids up to 8 years old are invited to participate in the Easter egg hunt event, which has been a local favorite for many years. If you have any questions, please contact the Parks and Rec Department at 928-639-3200. And lastly, the 6th annual Verde Valley Comic Expo will be held on Saturday, March 25th at the Cottonwood Recreation Center from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This event is just $5 or $3 with a canned food donation. Kids 10 and under are free. Come dressed as your favorite comic or pop culture character and enjoy a great time with your friends. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Great. Thank you. Okay, up next is call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action, and comments are limited to a 3-minute time period. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the call to the public at the beginning of the meeting. We have yellow forms that are available to the public. They should be out in the hall. If anyone would like to address the public, you're more than welcome to fill out a form. You have 3 minutes to come up and address council. I will queue folks up because we have quite a long list of folks that would like to address the public. So I'll queue you up, call the first person up, and then the next person in line can stand and wait. And we'll get through this as quickly as possible so we can get on to our regular business. And just as a reminder, all of the forms that I received are to speak about the Pride event that's coming to Cottonwood on April 8th. So it's not on the agenda, so we can't discuss it with you. So this is just your opportunity to come up and share your concerns with council. Again, you'll have 3 minutes to do so. It's important that you address all of council, not any individual council members. And we We can't answer any questions, so I wouldn't bother asking us any questions. Just if you're in opposition, you can come up and state that. You're welcome to flesh out your 3 minutes if you choose to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You can just come up and say, I'm opposed or I'm in favor. That would be fine too. And allow your colleagues and friends and neighbors to come up and have their time up here as well. Please don't turn around and address the public behind you. You're here to address the council only, so please look at us and address us directly. And then you all have been a very civil crowd. I don't expect that to be any different this evening, but let's all keep it as civil as possible. And no applause, please. We'll just get through this as efficiently as possible. So there's nobody recording the applause. We're not measuring it in any way, so there's no sense in applause, okay? So here we go. I'm going to call it first Mr. Nacito, and you'll be followed by Scott Murray.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Three meetings ago, I was last, or second to last, now I'm first. Without a legitimate argument for permitting minor kids to attend an adult entertainment event, the drag queen and LGBT community is now playing the victim, using the terms hate and violence in describing people opposed to the drag queen family-friendly event. You've also been referred to it as a pride event instead of the previously entitled drag queen event, all ages welcome. Mr. Hall wrote a recent letter to the editor, and he raised more questions than he answered. How does he ensure that an individual is the legal, legitimate parent or guardian of the minor? Mr. Hall, in his article, switches to, quote, all children must be accompanied by, quote, a responsible adult. What happened to parent minor, or what happened to parent guardian? I guess that's merely a responsible adult. What documents will he accept as verification of guardianship? Birth certificates? Adoption papers? Mr. Hall states there will be alcohol sold, but without a wristband, no one will get into the alcohol area. I suppose it's a beer or wine garden setup. Is it just served, or must it be consumed in that area? Can an adult, once served, leave the wristband area with alcohol and mingle with the minor children? He also states there will be a section within the venue for the underage. Who will monitor the underage area? Mr. Hall's responsible adults? It sounds like Mr. Hall simply makes stuff up on the fly. Can a negligent parent, guardian simply leave their minor kid in the kids section only for the duration of the event? Rhetorical question, why does the drag queen community adamantly insist on the flippant exposure of minors to adult men dressed in exaggerating cartoonesque women's costumes, makeup, prancing with sexual gyrations? This is clearly adult entertainment meant to be patronized by adults. In closing, I want to quote the drag queen toast that was filmed at a Roanoke, Texas event. The toast was, cheers to you, cheers to me, cheers to those that lick us where we pee. If that's considered a children tolerable toast, then it's beyond me. Put this item on the agenda for an open discussion and vote so we can see your views and hear your views. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Murray, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Mary Murray.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm going to share with you a Psalm of David. David was originally a shepherd, and then he became the king of Israel. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. O my God, I trust in you. Do not let me be ashamed. Do not let my enemies exult over me. Indeed, none of those who wait for you will be ashamed. Those who deal treacherously without cause will be ashamed. Make me know your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day. Remember, O Lord, your compassion and loving kindness, for they have been from old. Do not remember the sins of my youth or my transgressions. According to your loving kindness, remember me for your goodness' sake, O Lord. Good and upright is the Lord, therefore he instructs the sinners in the way. He leads the humble in the justice, and he teaches the humble his way. All the paths of the Lord are loving kindness and truth to those who keep his covenant and testimonies. For your name's sake, O Lord, pardon my iniquity, for it is great. Who is the man who fears the Lord? He will instruct him in the way he should go. His soul will abide in prosperity, and his descendants will inherit the land. The secret of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he will make them know his covenant. My eyes are continually toward the Lord, for he will pluck my feet out of the net. Turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted. The troubles of my heart are enlarged. Bring me out of my distress. Look upon my affliction and trouble, and forgive all my sins. Look upon my enemies, for they are many. They hate me with violent hatred. Guard my soul and deliver me. Do not let me be ashamed, for I take refuge in you. Let integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait for you. Redeem Israel, O God, out of all of its troubles. So we see that Israel had a problem too. Sin. All men have feet of clay, and all men sin. So without God, there is no redemption. Redemption is something that each one of us needs, because we're going to face the Lord Almighty on the day of our death, and we're going to give an account for every word, every action, every deed, and bringing children into adult activities such as this are abominable, and the Lord speaks about that. So I pray that you will each take that to heart and realize that the decisions you're making in allowing children, you're putting them together with pedophiles. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Mary Murray, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Jacqueline Leslie.
I'm Mary Murray, and I'm just opposed to this event, and I just wanted to state that.
Thank you, ma'am. Jacqueline Leslie, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Kelly Moffitt.
Thank you, Council, for giving me the permission to speak to you this evening. I'm Jacqueline Leslie, and I live in Clarkdale, Arizona. I currently do not have any children in the school system that's going on. That's a mess. And then it's being compounded by this event that obviously it's rather easy to go ahead and get on the agenda. You just sign a piece of paper and pay the money down, and that's the end of it. And I've been sitting and questioning myself, why would you want to do this? Why would the council even consider this action against the children? And you're giving this, in my mind, I'm thinking, this allows these people a loud voice to express themselves, which is probably fine in a limited and confined area, and it does not ever include children. Children are I have children that live behind me where I live, and they are constantly involved in my life, and I don't even know them, basically. This is a deplorable event that whoever was the person that allowed this to begin, and it's how it's going to impact our children. And I think that this group and this council really needs to consider what is going to be happening and the impact this will have on our children's lives going forward. It's bad enough that the school libraries in the high school, the college, even the grammar schools have all these books about LGBT people. They have a right to speak, and I'm not saying don't let them speak, but we have a right to have our children be taken care of in a constructive way, not the destruction of this act with these individuals. They can do whatever they want in their own confined spaces, but not with the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leslie. Kelly Moffitt, you're up next, and then you'll be followed by Lisa Prachia.
Mayor, council members, staff, I'm Kelly Moffitt. I live in the UVX Road area here, just outside the incorporated area here in Cottonwood. And I'm really here tonight to follow up on a letter I wrote. It was addressed to you, Mayor, and also to you, Mr. Acting City Manager. And it was dated February the 24th. That letter ended with, "I'll look forward to receiving your response." I have, as of today, received nothing in response. So I thought I would bring it, and I'll read it to you. It's not that long, but it addresses the same issue that we're already discussing here tonight. It says, "Gentlemen, this is to address the subject of so much unresolved controversy at the last two city council meetings. The so-called Arizona Pride Tour 2023 event scheduled on April 8th here in Cottonwood. As I've expressed previously, I am vehemently opposed to this event, primarily for the following two reasons. First, the event organizers have gone out of their way to invite children to this event. This is clear from the promotional poster they've distributed, which states all ages welcome, all in caps and an exclamation mark after it. This event will center on adult content of a graphic sexual nature." What a shock. "Which is absolutely inappropriate for children of all ages defined within Arizona revised statutes as 17 and under." I would encourage you to look up the statutes in A.R.S. You know, there are still laws on the books against public lewdness, and that's what this event is all about. So I think it's outrageous that the city of Cottonwood would indirectly endorse such an event by allowing it to take place in a city-owned building, an unprecedented move, and a decision that will open the door for the likely illegal exploitation of children. And we've been saying this meeting after meeting. I'm really disappointed that this was not on the agenda. It should be on the agenda, Mayor. You're the one that's stopping it, so step up. That's why we're all here. Get it on. We'd like to hear from y'all. We want to hear your positions individually. As I and numerous others have expressed at the last two meetings, there is no redeeming value whatsoever for children to be present at a drag show. Even if the city takes the position that children may not attend the show without an accompanying parent or guardian, why would the city even want to expose the children to this? What would be the point? What redeeming value is there? There's none. And so, undoubtedly, this issue will once again be raised in the next meeting. It should most definitely be placed on the meeting agenda in order that the public may know where each member of the council stands on the matter. We have a right to know. And I know that two of you on the council did come forward and try to get it on the agenda, and apparently were shut down. Mayor, that's at your feet. You're the one responsible for that. So I just want to say that in a word of thanks, this council has motivated several of us to form and organize a group called Concerned Citizens of the Verde Valley. And we plan to be here often and addressing matters that are important to your constituents. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Moffitt. Lisa Prachia, you're up next. And you'll be followed by Ken and Arlene Clouston.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Lisa Prachia, and I am from Cottonwood. Until recently, I had never been to a city council meeting. The last two meetings on the Silverado Loft zoning issue and how it was resolved, I found frightening, fascinating, and ultimately satisfying to see the council make what I thought was a tough but right decision. I can only imagine that it's not easy to put your personal opinions aside and listen to the people who elected you. I'd like you to show that same courage and character on the drag show matter. My unofficial count is that 88% of the comments during the last two council meetings for the call to the public expressed concerns about this event. My impression is that there is a current of stonewalling about putting this topic on the agenda that troubles me. Here are my biggest concerns. The organizer's website for this event states that minors must be accompanied by a parent. That sentence ends with an exclamation mark implying sincerity and commitment. 2 meetings ago, the show organizer, Christopher Hall, said that minors must be accompanied by, this time, a parent or guardian. In Hall's letter to the editor in last Sunday's Verde Valley Independent, he said that minors must be accompanied by a, quote, responsible adult, end quote. What exactly does that mean? Encouraging minors to be entertained by sexually explicit content, to me, is irresponsible. Hall also mentioned in his editorial that the Cottonwood show would have a, quote, no photo policy in order to protect the privacy of those attending, but that photos could be taken at the end of the event, end quote. Given the disturbing performance photos that circulated after Hall's similar Lake Havasu show, I think that limiting photos has more to do with obscuring the truth than protecting patron privacy. So in summary, I will be back each meeting until this topic is on the agenda for public discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pratcha. Ken and Arlene Clouston, you're up next, followed by Ray and Diane Robley, I believe. So do we have Ray and Diane Robley in the room? We'll move on then to Ruth Ann Barcy. Are you in the room? Yes. Okay, great. Come on up. And you'll be followed by Ms. O'Daniel.
Good evening, Council,
evening.
Mayor, and Council. We started today by saying one nation under God, and we are one nation under God. I'm here because I'm standing up for the children and what's right in God's sight. You are not accountable to us for the way you make your decision about what we're presenting before you. But someday, God will hold us all accountable for any sinful actions that we may take. God is patient, but God is the God of justice. I don't have my glasses on, I'm sorry. Okay. God will punish unrepentant nations for their sinful actions. We got to humble ourselves and pray to God and stand for biblical values. The wrath of God will come upon us, and that's why we are here today, to prevent that, Lord, to turn back to the Lord, not away from him. You can mock our faith, but just remember, God's the one whom we are all accountable for. He is our judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barcy. Ms. O'Daniel, you're up next. And Ms. O'Daniel will be followed by Sharon Bonney.
Thank you.
Your foot, ready? And tell me when.
That's okay.
Your brakes.
Mayor and City Council. According to Webster's College Edition Dictionary, the noun morality is defined as, quote, principles of right and wrong in conduct, specifically virtue in sexual conduct. Our retired city attorney recently made the statement that we cannot legislate morality, but please consider the following. In 1991, Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas came under fire from Anita Hill over charges of sexual harassment. In 2018, Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh came under fire after sexual misconduct allegations were brought against him. Clearly, these were matters of moral conduct. Most properly, the U.S. Senate was being asked to deliberate on purely moral matters, the outcome of which would determine the makeup of the highest court in the land. Our retired city attorney's statement is specious in light of these and many other historical legislative events. We have laws barring children from attending strip clubs because it is harmful for a child to view anyone who is sexually explicit, which also defines people in the drag queen movement. We also need laws barring children from attending drag shows, which excite lust and lasciviousness and are most harmful for adults, let alone children who are sexually innocent. The demonic LGBT transgender recruiting and predatory grooming craze of gender activists seeks to destroy children's moral compasses. It has become its own epidemic of broken bodies and souls, destroying the lives of countless young Americans, causing skyrocketing rates of teen misery, depression, and suicide. President John Adams wisely stated to the officers of the 1st Brigade of the Massachusetts Militia in 1798, quote, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other," close quote. We must stand against the evil that has infested America, expose and defeat it. With God's help, it can be done. The matter of the drag show scheduled for April 8 should have been on tonight's agenda. Will you abide by your own city ordinances and put this matter on the March 21 City Council agenda? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Daniel. Sharon Bonney, you're up next, and you'll be followed by John Mitchell.
Good evening. The role of the adult is to protect children. One of the ways is to give them a period of innocence. Children deserve some years of innocence. The city of Cottonwood, allowing parents to bring their children to a show with a performer named Ecstasy, and performers who do the spread eagle, robs children of their innocence. Put this matter on the agenda. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of you have power over the people of Cottonwood. Why do you want that power? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bonney. Mr. Mitchell, you're up next. You'll be followed by Joseph Guthrie.
Good evening, Council. I've got to read a few quotes, and I'm addressing you in particular, Mr. Mayor. You stated that I want to ensure the public that there is no higher priority for me on the rest of the council than keeping our children safe. Laws exist to protect children, and we will enforce these if necessary. We cannot preemptively assume there will be sexually explicit content at this performance, and the promoter was stated that this is all age appropriate. Huh, really? So I've already shared with you all, I began on the 6th of February asking you all questions. There was only one of you who responded to me. You know who you are. And I know of two of you that I understand are wanting to put this on the agenda. And I keep wondering, why are you circumventing your own ordinances? You know, the fact of the matter is you appear to be an extremely poor leader, Mr. Mayor, because you should be leading by example about this. It should have already been on the agenda. You see the size of these crowds that have been shown up. It's unprecedented. This is outrageous to me, and it's offensive. I had to resort to getting a request for public records to even know what you people are talking about. You work for us. I don't think you get that. You don't lord it over us, and none of you, I've been in your seat. I know all about what goes on.
Excuse me, I got to say something. This is to be addressed to the entire council, please.
No, you're out of order.
Listen, folks, we're
got
all
3
gonna,
minutes.
Mr. Mitchell, just calm. We'll pause your time for a second. We're all going to get along in this room, or I'm going to shut down the call to the public. Okay?
Ms. Weldon spoke out of order.
Sir.
You know it.
Calm down.
Mr. Mitchell, would you like to continue?
Okay. I've got some questions then. Still, I want this on the matter of public record. You know, Christopher Hall posted that he was going to have lunch with Mayor Alinsky and the council and a council member. Apparently, I won't quote the name. I've got questions about that. Where was were other council members invited? Was this a secretive meeting, exclusive meeting? Were there other council members informed about the mayor and this meeting in the city hall, or with Hall rather? What was the real purpose of the meeting? Who paid for the lunch? Will Mr. Alinsky, the mayor, be reimbursed by the city when he submits his expense report? You know, I've asked for questions. It's really a small matter that I should be able to expect answers. I've been waiting over a month. I had to submit a FOIA, for crying out loud. Do I need to get involved in legalities here? I mean, please.
Mr. Mitchell, your time is up. Thank you, sir. Joseph Guthrie, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Barry Jones. Mr. Guthrie, are you with us this evening? Barry Jones, you're up next. Are you with us, Barry Jones? John Kuprock, are you with us this evening? And then we'll move on to R. Lewis. R. Lewis, are you here this evening? David and Denise Eby. Karen Rafton. Mike Vernia or Vernal. James McCabe, are you here this evening? Dale Casey, are you here? No? Don Williams? Jerry Coles? Tony Ponica? No? Bruce Pavlovsky? Kathy Button? No? Terry Williams? Barbara Pavlovsky? No? Lee Elder, Sr.? All right, come on up, sir. And you'll be followed by Daniel Lemke. Daniel Lemke, are you in the room? Can you raise a hand? Great, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity tonight. First of all, I just want to ask the question before I read something very relevant to, I believe, the discussion we're having tonight. Do we want to go against God? For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in righteousness, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them. For God hath showed it unto them, for the invisible things of him from creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because that, when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like unto a corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshiped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves the recompense of their error, which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy and murder, debate, deceit, basically the 5 o'clock news, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who, knowing the judgment of God, they that which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm sickened to think that we have to have this discussion this evening. There are laws that govern the universe and the natural world and physical world. There are also laws that govern the spiritual. And when you violate those laws, there is catastrophic consequences. Just look at our world today, look at the news. I'm asking you, please put this on the ballot so we can vote against it and be with our children.
Thank you, sir. Daniel Lemke, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Lisa Lemke.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, what I see is I understand there are two of you who are opposed to this. I don't know which ones they are. I haven't done that research, but the other members, I have to call, you are either evil in your hearts or you are foolish. Those who are evil would consciously turn children over to these pedophiles. Those who are foolish know no better. They don't know good from evil. But the shame doesn't lie with the evil or with the fools. The shame lies with the good people of Cottonwood who elected people with evil hearts and or that are fools. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Lisa Lemke, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Lee Elder Jr.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Lisa Lemke, and I have attended every meeting thus far, and I will continue to do so. There are many voices today, loud voices, the voice of the LGBT and the transgender agenda. This voice is very loud, and the agenda is aimed at our kids and youth, grooming them, sexualizing them, normalizing the LGBTQ plus lifestyle. Pedophilia is now approaching normalcy in our country. And now we see that kids, they will have easy access to our kids. I am a mom, I'm a grandma, none of my children or grandchildren live here, but I care deeply about this issue and I care about our children. We can thank the public schools promoting their agenda. We can thank the libraries all across the country who have books now, I understand, in the libraries, as well as Drag Queen Story Hour. The drag shows now all across America, very sexually explicit, with the support of big government, big business, and apparently even in some small towns, perhaps among some of you, it sounds like, support. This is a big threat. It's a big voice, but we have a big voice as well. I was very happy to hear that in Tennessee, the governor in Tennessee recently signed a bill banning minor medical mutilation, which is what these transgender surgeries are. It's mutilation and experimentation. I've heard the voices of young people that are sorry that they had surgeries and went through this awful process, and they're trying to get the word out. The good news is truth tellers are getting the word out. That's why we're here. That's why we will continue to be here. Many politicians are hearing, they're listening, and lawmakers are making a difference. And again, truth speaks louder, and we are here. You've heard the truth. We are here to voice our strong opposition to the transgender LGBTQ agenda, and we say, please stop this. Please do the will of the people. We beg of you, do the will of the people. Help our children. I don't want any child to be abused sexually. And children deserve, as was said earlier, the right to be innocent and to not be abused. I beg of you, take the children into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lemke. Lee Elder Jr., you're up next, and you'll be followed by Ken Miller.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Lee Elder Jr. I've lived in Cottonwood for 8 years, and I've lived in Arizona my entire life. I attended Verde Christian Academy for 7 years and regularly attend church. But like many people in this city, I was shocked when we found out that this atrocious display of evil was allowed to take place. The United States of America is a democratic republic. A republic is where the government is made up of a people. But since it would be inefficient to fit all of Cottonwood into one building for voting, we elect people to represent us. That's where democracy comes in. City Council and Mayor, you are not representing the people of Cottonwood. That has been proven by the vast number of people who have come to voice their complaints against this drag show for the last several weeks. Sometimes they waited for 2 hours just to speak out against this evil. We live in a time where to be counted inclusive and diverse, we must allow children of all ages to view something most grown adults would be disgusted by. In order to be counted inclusive, we must allow perverse people the right to groom the children. We live in a time where common sense is called condemnation, and in a time where our politicians are too afraid to protect the citizens they were elected by. For the 2 council members who want to restrict this to adults only, I applaud your actions to stand up against this. However, even though you have taken the right step in the fight, it is only a compromise that will appease both parties. But the reason we are having this talk now, as previously stated, is that all has been done for decades is compromise. The church, our nation, our society have made compromise after compromise only to become what it is now. Many others and I urge you not to just restrict it to 18 plus, but to outlaw it altogether. If a strip club was planned in Cottonwood, you would receive the same number of people against that as well. So thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thank you, sir. Ken Miller, are you with us this evening? You'll be followed by Eleanor Kirk.
Council, thank you for letting me be here. I'm Ken Miller, been a resident of Rimrock for 31 years and at the same time pastor of Beaver Creek Baptist Church. My first 2 years in the Valley, I pastored over at Clarkdale Baptist Church as well. I come to stand in opposition to this drag show, as I have the last couple of meetings. One thing, Mr. Mayor, that I would like clarified, people took the time to fill out those forms. They weren't here to speak out or chose not to when you called their name, but can we know if they were in opposition or support? And certainly the important part is for the council to know if all those names that didn't take a stand are in opposition or support of this matter. I assume, because it's been the pattern, that they maybe all were opposed to this. Can that be clarified in the open meeting?
I will, and I apologize. Normally I do. I'll go back and let you know.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Eleanor Kirk, are you with us this evening? You'll be followed by Randy Burdett.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Eleanor Kirk. I've lived in the Verde Valley for 25 years. I've sat through the last 2 City Council meetings, listening to my brothers and sisters in Christ speak eloquently and passionately about the need to classify the drag queen event adult entertainment and exclude our precious innocent children. They have read scriptures detailing God's view of such activities, as well as his warnings to those who would offend even one of his little ones. Others have brought to our attention both state and local laws, codes, statutes designed to protect our children from sexual lewdness. Pictures of the performers were provided to council members, and I believe all members of the City Council to be well informed on this matter. Still, we have no word that the event is to be restricted to adults. What remains to be said? Tonight, I'd like to tell you a story that illustrates how impressionable a child's mind is. When we take a picture we don't like, we simply press delete and our phone erases it. The brain does not have a delete function. We are told that input can never be erased. All my life, I have been frugal. Wasting anything seems horrible to me. I gather up the last grain of rice on the counter and make sure that it gets into the cooking pot. I scrape the last lentil out of my soup bowl. How did I become so obsessive? 70 years ago, I watched a cartoon. A hungry mouse was in a trash can looking for something to eat, and he found a can with one kidney bean in the bottom. Put a bib on, got his knife and fork, put it on the plate, and sat down to carve it, but it was snatched away from him before he tasted it. That cartoon has influenced my behavior all my life. On a sadder note, my husband, who died last year at 91 years of age, told me that another boy had shown him a pornographic magazine in his childhood. And despite his best efforts and all of the tools he gained while earning a PhD in psychology, he was never able to erase those images from his mind. There is no delete button on the brain. I moved to the Verde Valley 25 years ago from Las Vegas, excited to escape the moral miasma that hung over that city, a darkness no searchlight could dispel. It's come here, it's after our children. Make the right decision, make the righteous decision.
Thank you, Ms.
Stand
Kirk.
up for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. Randy Burdette, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Tristia Travieso. Probably not saying that correctly, but Randy Burdette, welcome.
Thank you for allowing us all to speak here today. I'm here to add more context to my previous points from the last two council meetings open to the public. This is a summarized version of Trixie Mattel's A Well-Known Drag Queen story on the history of drag. It has been shortened to be more relevant to my point, which is drag has always been adult entertainment and based on queer culture, at least since 1932. Quote, responsible adults, unquote, parents, guardians, bringing children or minors to drag shows doesn't make it okay, as some have implied. Also, supposedly having separate areas for children doesn't make it okay, just like it wouldn't be okay for separate areas for children at strip clubs. In fact, that would be illegal. Why isn't it illegal when it comes to drag shows? Here is a summary of the history of drag. Quote, the drag ball tradition goes back to the 20s minus the voguing we see today. There were often house parties where black queer people would congregate together. By 1932, the term was headline-worthy. An article from the Afro-American newspaper titled Queer Sex Busy Planning Drags detailed a drag attended by 300 people, some with a keenness for blonde wigs and plans for upcoming drags. The participants were called members of the third sex, a term that subscribed same-sex attracted masculine women or feminine men. In the 1950s, drag queens began performing in bars and spaces that specifically catered to gay people, like the Black Cat in San Francisco. And as more gay bars began to pop up, drag solidified itself as a gay art form, not just men impersonating women for the sake of comedy. The 2000s made way for the definition of drag to broaden from rigidly being about realness to a more expansive art form for gay men, trans folk, queer women, and more. Today, drag can involve dressing up, wearing crazy makeup, gender crossing, or having a persona or fictional character, but It'll always have its roots in queer culture, unquote. Planned Parenthood's definition of queer is, quote, a word that describes sexual and gender identities other than straight and cisgender, unquote. Do children really have sexual identities when they are very young? Even when they are 15 or so, is it really appropriate for children to be involved in events with adult entertainment whose roots are based on sexual preferences and sexual identities, especially when sexualized dances are taking place, such as the spread eagle, where one lays on their back and spreads their legs as far as they can so as to mimic the sex position? As Christopher J. Hall demonstrated at the recent Lake Havasu all-ages tour shown on video when he was in drag. Again, let me finish. Again, I and most people do not mind drag shows as long as adult entertainment does not include minors or children when it comes to adult entertainment in city-run buildings, especially where a building was since the beginning traditionally used for family and community events. The city council and the Cottonwood community will have to decide on that one. Something like this would be a first for Cottonwood.
Mr. Burdett, I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes is up. Thank you, sir.
Let me close.
Sir, your 3 minutes is up. I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right.
Tristan, are you, Tristan Travieso, are you in the room? Great, thank you.
You said it right the second time. So.
Sorry. Couldn't read the writing. I apologize.
Oh, good. Hello, City Council members. My name is Tristan Travieso. I'm a father, husband, and local pastor here in Cottonwood. So you are hosting an event with taxpayer-funded building that is child-friendly on a Christian holiday. I've thought about exactly what would be convincing enough for you to properly see the weight of what you are planning to do. I know there are multiple petitions, one with around 1,300 signatures. From my research, that's about 10% of the population here. Yet that is not enough. There have been arguments about hosting this in a taxpayer building, and that is not enough. You have been told a thorough description of how this event is an abomination to God, and yet that is not enough. There are concerns about the sexual nature of this event and how they encourage children to attend, yet still that is not enough. Still, you are reluctant to even acknowledge any opposition to this event. This is an issue that will go down in history. Like slavery, women's rights, and child labor, the full effect of this LGBTQ movement will have on society has not been fully realized yet, but even what we have so far has been extremely concerning. 34% of the LGBTQ community report experiencing suicidal thoughts during the past year. 61% experience suicidal thoughts during their lifetime. About 30 to 51% report at least one lifetime suicide attempt. Over a half report engaging in self-harm during the last year. This is not even mentioning the surgeries that are glorified child mutilation. In history, there are times when weak men took the side of evil, took the side that brought them short-term satisfaction, financial gain, influence, or pleasure. City Council, which side of history will you be on? When the dust settles, when your grandchildren look back at this moment, will you be on the right side of history? Will you stand up for what is eternally, morally good, or will you be a stain on history and a shame to your family? I call you once more to repent. To turn from your endorsing of this abomination of event. It is not enough to limit it to adults only. It is not enough to limit it to a different day or a different location. More than your place in history, you will soon be in front of your Creator. And He will judge your actions by His standards. I pray that on that day, you don't regret this moment.
Thank you, Mr. Travieso. And for clarity, the folks that weren't in the room, all of those were opposed. All right, thank you, folks. We're going to go ahead and move on with our meeting then. Next is approval of minutes of the work session of February 14th, 2023, and the special meetings of February 27th and 28th, 2023. I'll motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Karat seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. And just one item under unfinished business this evening is ordinance number 731, implementing a registration requirement and other regulations for short-term vacation rental properties. This is the second and final reading. Evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Kirsten Lennon, the Financial Services Director. This is the second and final reading. We received no comments.
Okay, council, any discussion on this item?
No.
No.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 731.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Naren made the motion, Councilmember Henry seconded it. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Duvernay?
Yes.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Karat?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilden?
Yes.
And Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Great. Let's ask you to read ordinance number 731, please, by title only.
Ordinance number 731, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the Municipal Code Title V, business taxes, licenses, and regulations by adding a new section 5.08, short-term rentals and vacation rentals, regulating short-term rentals and vacation rentals, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing for penalties, and establishing an effective date.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, next is the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council, will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. 3 items this evening. First up is proposed amendments to the city's homeownership and employer-assisted housing programs. Item 2 is award of bid and approval of contract with Standard Construction Company, Inc. for the installation of concrete pads for bus shelters along State Route 260. And item 3 is resolution number 3163, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Clarkdale for transportation services. Is there an item that a council member or a member of the public would like to have pulled?
Number 3.
Number 3, okay, we'll pull that. Council, do I hear a motion on items 1 and 2?
I move to approve the consent agenda items 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Henry made the motion, Councilmember Wilden seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And let's pull item 3 for discussion. It's resolution number 3163, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Clarkdale for transportation services.
Hi, Mayor, council members. Lisa Boring, Transportation Manager.
Great. Do you have any questions?
Okay, so, and I appreciate the feedback you gave me. On the one estimate, it says the local cost per service hour is $28.86. Is that just labor, like for the bus driver loaded cost? Or does that include fuel, maintenance?
No, it does not. It does not include the fuel and the maintenance. One thing, that I'm struggling with here in the transit department is we have Route Match, and Route Match does not give us the information that I've needed out of it. I'm currently trying to replace that system. As you may or may not be aware, we're looking at probably $200,000 or better to replace that system. I've actually had to go back to kind of manual reporting to make sure we're getting correct information out of it. So I'm really, going off what little bit of information I have from previous manager or, what I can kind of pull myself, which is very little.
Gotcha. It says it's got a $28.86 and then it's got a $52.28 total cost per service hour. Do we know what that number?
Yeah, so the $52.28 is what I took off our grant application, is what our hourly service rate is. And then I kind of broke it down to what our local cost for service hours with, like I said, once again, with what information I'm able to pull out of the system.
Okay. So then it says the total roughly would be $59.23.
Correct.
Ballpark on maintenance, just because I'm in the industry, I have a rough idea as to what that costs. The cheapest bus maintenance from last year was 16,000, and that was the cheap one. The next second cheapest one is 30,000. Without a VIN number, I can't verify which bus is which bus.
Correct.
But even if you factor in the 16 grand a year for basic maintenance, the labor for the driver, the fuel, and then you factor in the, because it looks like you broke out the ADA on there as a separate cost, right?
Yes.
You factor all that in, you're probably well over 120, closer to 100, well over 100,000, closer to 120. Would that be a fair?
You know, without being able to pull all the information that I need, I can't, that may be the case, but I don't have the ability to pull the information that I need to get an exact number. What I do know by looking at the IGAs from prior years, those IGAs were like 34,500 for Clarkdale. I know that it cost us more than that to run it.
Right.
So I was able to get some figures together, which I thought was fair. Went to Clarkdale. We did agree upon the 57,000. Until we can get our system fixed and I can pull correct data, I can't get you correct numbers, the exact numbers that you're.
Gotcha.
My Mayor and Council, Councilmember Crott, some of these numbers were very difficult to pull. From. The numbers that we have are from about 2019, as far as those numbers are concerned. Things have changed quite a bit because we had COVID, then we had loss of drivers, so the numbers are not accurate. We were very just pleased to even get the 57,000, seeing that we've been getting 35,000 for the last 3 or 4 years. We're progressively going to go ahead and raise that rate as we go along. Clarkdale is well aware that we're going to be making some adjustments. We're currently meeting with Yavapai County because they are also not paying their fair share. Once we get this full year under our belts where we can actually get some good accurate figures, we'll go ahead and make some adjustments to that particular number for next year.
Okay, so then if we approve this total, that's this year and next year would be the same amount?
Well, we'll look at we only approved it for 1 year. We're going to go ahead and look at it for next year and see if we have what our numbers look like next year. But I will tell you, it will not be in the hundreds of thousands. We can't possibly put that load on Clarkdale, but we will start inching up towards that amount.
I have no problem helping out other communities, but when, at a previous meeting, when we said that with the compensation study, we may or may not have enough money to cover whatever raise or package is suggested. I don't mind helping them out, but if we're going to give away everything and then say we can't afford to pay our people, that's a problem.
I wouldn't say that we're giving away anything. That's quite a large sum for a community of that size. We do get quite a number of grant money to go ahead and supplement this particular item, but we will start pushing those numbers right back up. I don't see, ADOT traditionally does not want us to go ahead and lose any of our partners, so we try to do as much as we can so that we can go ahead and keep them on as long as we can. Like I said, we have already told them that at some point we will be getting the amount that's rightfully owed to the city of Cottonwood, or we will be reducing their services. It may not happen next year. It may happen in a couple of years as we inch them forward.
I know in years past when we didn't feel like we were getting the funding we needed from other entities, we did look at cutting services. In fact, did cut services out to the county. But it looks to me like we're trying to get our data in order, and then we are incrementally raising the rates for other communities. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
Yes, and that's been my goal with the IGAs. We've done the Verde Valley caregivers. I did increase theirs, and they are aware that theirs will also increase again, this coming next fiscal year. Looking back at the other, the previous year's IGAs, they kind of have been like the same every year. So that's another struggle that I have, is kind of like going to the county and saying, okay, I know you were only paying $34,000 for, X amount of years, but now we're going to want 134. I have to also look at that, and we got to, of course, increase our cost to them, but I think we kind of need to do it on like more, a little bit at a time and kind of get us where we need to be. the goal in transit is to build our transit system. We never want to reduce it unless obviously, we have no option.
Is there grant money they can go after to help supplement? Or like they could get a grant for bus service and then transfer it over?
No, we're their primary services, so we've been looking at several different options. As a matter of fact, I had asked Lisa to look at some of the federal funding that has been released for transportation to see if there's something available. Unfortunately, we can't go for it on our own. We end up going through ADOT. ADOT too is looking for other type of grant funding. As you know, one of the things we tried to do this last year was replace 5 vehicles because we've been replacing engines right and left and transmissions because our vehicles are getting very old. We've got acknowledgement that we will be getting 5 buses and a van, which is through the 5339 grant, which is awesome for us because it'll help lower our costs. One of our biggest costs is our maintenance on our buses. And that's what we're trying to reduce right now. But unfortunately, just so you know, anytime we put an engine in a bus, it becomes a new bus according to FDA. And no matter what the chassis looks like or anything else, we end up keeping it for an additional 5 years, regardless of the mileage. So we're very careful not to replace an engine or transmission unless we need it, because that means it's going to stay with us for 5 years. But to be honest with you, we do a very good job of maintaining our systems, even our bus systems, even though our current provider is very expensive. They're a premier large vehicle provider, service provider in the area.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's also the only provider that is certified to work on our lifts, so we're
Got it.
pretty
Yeah,
much
he's the only one that goes that big.
Yes.
Councilmember Henry?
I just had a quick question
Sure.
about the term, because we have a 22, 23, 23, 24 term in the IGA, but I thought I heard our deputy city manager say this was a one-year term, so has the term been modified, and if so, how will the payments be allocated?
So, Rudy, I think I can answer.
They make 2 payments a year. It's a 2-year term, but the dollar amount is not fixed. It's only fixed for 1 year. In other words, we will have the contract for 2 years. Then the future number will be determined as we put the formula together.
So we're locked in. If we approve this resolution this evening, we're locked into the $57,000 for this fiscal year, and then next year we can adjust as we get more data in and work on the numbers more. Is that what I understand?
That's not what's drafted, so.
No. So what we had decided is, because we're so behind on getting them the 2022, we're almost to 2023. And instead of getting them a 2022 and then having to go right back, next month and get them 23,
I see.
we don't have the data yet. So we just would like it for the 2022 and 2023. That gives me time to hopefully get us some new software and get those.
I see. Okay.
So this is a retroactive payment for this fiscal year?
Yes. Yeah, the 2022.
So then are we able to have an updated IGA before we approve it?
Yes.
That's always been a challenge. We're trying to get that. Last year, one of the problems we had, of course, is that I was a transit manager and I was trying to learn the system, which is when I realized that route match really is not a very good system. But yes, this is for this current fiscal year. It's retroactive, and we'll be hopefully get some numbers for them for next fiscal year. At this point in time, there's a good chance that we might stick with the 57,000 for next year because we don't have numbers just yet prepared for them as they're putting together their budget.
So we're going to approve it without the numbers? Is that what we're?
No, the number is
So-
Yeah.
for each fiscal year.
Yeah, but we haven't got all the data in, correct?
Yes. So what happened is, because we are so behind on getting Clarkdale their fiscal year 2022 IGA, we went ahead and drafted the 2, because next month we're going to have to do the 23. and nothing is gonna change in a month. So we wanted to go ahead and just kind of like, all right, means we have to go, let's get this taken care for both years. And then that gives us, for the 2024, I'll hopefully be able to get some more information and poll, and we'll then again increase the cost again.
So then is that software that we need, is that something that you've put in your budget?
That is not, we're actually looking at trying to get some grants in.
Okay.
She's going on ADOT grant years, not
Okay.
our
sorry.
fiscal year.
Okay.
So she's getting money, asking for this IGA for fiscal year '23 that we're in. And then according to the IGA that's in your packet, it would be 57,000 again for next year, which is budget year '24 for us at the city. And the IGA in here could be amended, and we could approve, you could approve it and say, based on a final form, if we need to amend that agenda, that item, we could amend the IGA and bring it back. Does that make sense? Like, we could say, we will have a final form IGA that says that this is 57,000 this year, 57,000 next year. And then when we get the new software, we will look at the calculations, and it is not in the budget for next year currently from ADOT.
Got it.
My apologies.
It's okay.
Used to the ADOT fiscal
It's okay.
year.
So council, how would you like to move forward? Here, I was pleased we were getting $20-some thousand more from Clarkdale. But it seems like we have some challenges ahead yet.
Yes. Yeah. And, I've been here 10 months, and so I really have been, struggling trying to pull information out of a system we can't. And, I know that we need these IGAs increased, but we need to get them to, Clarkdale. They've been waiting for this IGA, so.
And I apologize, I am not trying to be obtuse. I still don't understand, because the IGA says the current fiscal year is 57,000. They shall remit on or before June 30. And also for the next fiscal year, it's the same set $57,000 amount in the IGA. But it sounded as though that's not what we're asking them to pay us, or we don't know what we're asking them to pay us. Or again, did I misunderstand?
We are asking them, and they agreed to the 57,000.
For both years?
Yes. And they also are aware that, the price is going to be increasing.
So have we been providing the services then this entire fiscal year?
Yes.
We have never left off services with either of our partners.
I don't have any further questions, thanks.
Okay, so council, are you comfortable approving this resolution and then budgeting for the software that we need to track the data better and adjust our prices accordingly?
Well, that's not on the agenda tonight.
No, I know that, but during the budget process, certainly we can, help our transit department get the software they need.
Mayor, that's 200,000 plus. I'd rather not just make a commitment right now on any of that. Let's see if we can't find some grant funding for that particular item. And if we do, then we can go ahead and make the adjustment, budgetary revision at that point in time.
Sure, I'm not saying we spend the money now for the software. I'm just saying, are we comfortable moving forward with this resolution and then address the other issue at a later date?
Can I ask
Can
about
we
the software?
approve it from, I guess, last year and then go back to, I guess it'd be this year?
We only have one.
Once we have numbers to base that off of? And separate it out as a 1 year instead of a 2 year?
We could, but I really, without a software program that's going to work, I'm not going to get any different information, in the next month or two than what I currently have. I have no way to get that additional information.
Go ahead.
I guess my question would be, is we're not budgeting for the software. We don't have the software. So in the foreseeable future, if we don't get the software, what's going to change? I mean, we're not going to get more information. I mean, I'm just...
Yeah, so me, coming on to the transit and, learning our, weaknesses, I guess you'd say, I actually have started manual. reporting, and we manually are tracking like our revenue miles and hours, because I did notice, some of that just wasn't right. So we're manually tracking a lot of this now, just so that we're not reliant on a software program that can't give us all that information.
One of the things that's made it difficult is when our transit manager left, we've still missing some files that we haven't found, how some of the formats were set up, so it's been a bit of a struggle. He was very proficient in route match. He spent all of his time working on route match, and we don't do that anymore. We spend our time on operations, and that's where hoping to get a new software that'll be able to extract information from, obviously not route match, but from a new, more useful or more robust software is what we're looking at. Unfortunately, I don't believe that the software is in the budget for this upcoming year. We've got money set aside for planning instead of a new software. So we're going to have to work with what we've got for this year and next federal fiscal year, and then we'll be submitting unless we can get some more monies from ADOT and FDA.
Okay. Any other questions, council? No?
Can we send it back to him and ask for more money?
With that, my bad, what was that?
Can we send it back to him and tell him try again and pick a different number?
No. And I don't mean to just be blunt about it, but this is something that we had originally, before Lisa, I had already talked to their public works director and eventually to city manager Susan Guthrie about the amount that we were using an old set of numbers. They agreed to it, and seeing that it's over $20,000 more than what we originally, what they were paying, we agreed to negotiate that. We will continue their service. Of course, we also took some of the lines on Thursday that are going up to Jerome that they're getting credit for. So it brought them a little bit closer, but I think at this point in time, we've already discussed the number, and I think we need to probably stick by it since they've already agreed to it and they're going to be taking it up with their council. We can go ahead and right now we're at a point where we probably, if we only agree to 1 year, we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another agreement for next fiscal year. But the number will probably be the same because we don't have time to change it. So we're looking probably 2 years, and then third one out, which would be 25, would be when we go ahead and get a new set of numbers on it.
Okay.
And I, to that point, without having good data to base any kind of a counteroffer or request for additional funding, I don't feel comfortable or neighborly sending this back now where they have given us, agreed to a substantial increase. I appreciate staff's discussion, but I do agree. I don't know about a $200,000 software. I also don't know about the staff time to manually track this, but if there are other options available to be able to have a better idea of the costs and associated, that would be good. But otherwise, I don't feel very neighborly going back to Clarkdale tonight for the next 2 fiscal years, being beginning of March already.
Okay. Yeah, I think we understand the quandary we're in. I think we've long known that we're not probably getting the money we need for the services provided. So I think it's good to have this conversation and keep track on how we're managing the transit program and still being good partners in the community.
Yes, and I did, this has been months of communicating back and forth with Susan in Clarkdale to come to an agreement on the $57,000, because when, it is a $22,000 jump, so that was, it was tough getting that out of them. So sure. I don't think they would definitely not give us more.
Okay. All right. Keep hammering ADOT. Yes. Definitely. And I'll go ahead and motion to approve resolution number 3163.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Nairn seconded it. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember DeWillis?
I'm going to say no.
Councilmember Duvernay? Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Crott?
No.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Weldon?
Yes.
Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Duvernay?
Begrudgingly, I'll say yes.
All right, motion carries. Let's have our deputy clerk please read resolution number 3163 by title only.
Resolution number 3163, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Clarkdale for Cottonwood's provision of local and regional public transportation services to residents of Clarkdale through the Cottonwood Area Transit, the CAT system.
Thank you. Okay, new business, 3 items this evening for discussion, consideration, possible legal action. First up, resolution number 3161, adopting a public participation plan for the city's upcoming general plan update. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm Gary Davis with Community Development. This is an item we brought before the council back in November 8th for discussion for a draft of this. The public participation plan, as is noted in the packet, is kind of our plan for getting public participation in the general plan update process, which, as you know, is our 10-year process to overhaul the general plan. The public participation plan contains objectives of public participation in this plan. The participation names the participants in the process, the methods of gathering the input, and also a general schedule for public input as we go forward towards adopting an updated general plan in late 2024. This also went to the Planning and Zoning Commission in November 28th. We made a few minor revisions after discussion on that. We've posted this online with our other materials for the general plan. We've had no other comments on the plan. As you probably know, we've already begun implementing this plan. We've had a number of meetings so far. We've got information posted on the community development webpage on the process. We've already started the public meeting process with the Planning Commission meeting of February 27th. And as Mr. Rodriguez mentioned before, there's a number of meetings coming up as well for the initial public input. So we hope we get a lot of public participation on that. We have also gone online with a online survey. In addition to the surveys we've been handing out at events, we also have an online version that people can go in and take. It's pretty quick, pretty high altitude questions on attitudes about Cottonwood, perceptions and things, and I think we'll get some interesting results out of that. So I hope people will go on there and take that. And that's really all I have on this, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Mr. Davis?
We've had 2 meetings so far, public meetings. Is that right?
We've had the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, which was advertised as an opening visioning and values meeting, and we also had one last Saturday here in this room.
How has attendance from the public been so
Pardon?
far? How has public attendance been so far?
We had exactly 1 person from the public at the Planning and Zoning Commission, but we did have a lot of commission comments as well. So that was a valuable exercise. And then on Saturday we had probably 6 from the public. So we're hoping to get that going as we get into more specific topics. So far it's been kind of general. What do you think? What are the broad issues? And we hope as it gets into specific topics that people are more focused on, that we'll get more participation.
And I hope that's the case. Staff has calendared, I did calendar the meetings. I'd like to go to some that, if I'm able to attend. And I do hope that the public would avail themselves and take this time to ask questions, get information, express their views and opinions. But also, I see staff almost everywhere. They've been doing a hard push to get the notice out to the public. They're at our events, starting in the fall. And you guys are doing a really good job so far of getting the word out. And I think also as council, I'd like to encourage us all to try to make sure we're stirring up some public participation in this as well.
I just want to add, because you don't know, Mr. Davis was at the Cottonwood Community Awareness Group meeting last week, and we talked about the general plan there with the 3 members of the public that came to that meeting as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate your email blasts. That's helpful. How do you generate all the emails, and how many roughly are on your list?
I'm adding them all the time, Mr. Mayor. It's, I don't have a count.
Okay.
I just have an email. I would guess probably 150 to 200 right now, but that includes a lot of staff and surrounding jurisdictions that we also want to bring in as stakeholders as well. If not, if they don't participate, at least they know what's going on and know how to ask questions. It is very early in the process. Like I said, we will be, after this round of meetings, we will be coming back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, having more meetings open to the public and saying, this is what we've heard so far. Did we get it right? What do we need to add?
Mr. Davis, for those people that are watching that might want to get on that email list, how would they go about doing so?
There is a link on our website, city's website. Go to Departments and Community Development. That's where you can get not only the address to email in your email address to get on our notification list, but there's also a direct link to that online survey that I mentioned. Hope to get a lot of comments on that. And it's also got the most recent information on the upcoming meetings.
Got it. Okay. Great. Keep up the good work, and council get the word out as best we can. And
Ready for a motion? All right.
Yep. Yeah, go right ahead.
I would move to adopt resolution number 3161.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Henry made the motion. Councilmember Karat seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Duvernay?
Yes.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Karat?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilden?
Yes.
And Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Great, thank you. Let's have you read that resolution by title only, please.
Okay. Resolution number 3161, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, adopting a public participation plan for the update of the Cottonwood General Plan 2025.
Thank you. Item 2 under new business is resolution number 3164, supporting the designation of the Upper Verde River and its tributaries as a wild and scenic river. Good evening, Ms. Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Nancy Steele. I'm Executive Director of the Friends of the Verde River. And with me in your council chambers are Tony Joya, our board member and secretary. He's also former mayor of the town of Camp Verde. Tracy Stevens, our program director, and Mark Hufford, project manager, project coordinator for River Friendly Living. I am here requesting your support for designation of the Upper Verde under the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, representing over 100 businesses. I think we're up to 3 cities, and we're on the council agendas for 3 more in the next week, and are continuing to work on getting cities engaged, and a number of nonprofit organizations that have been working together to create this campaign for this designation for the Upper Verde. I've provided you with a PowerPoint presentation, which I can run through, or of course, if you've already gone through it and you just simply have questions for me, we could move right to questions depending on what your pleasure is.
You could run through it
Okay.
quickly if you choose, just for the benefit of the public. That'd be helpful.
All right, that's great. The first slide is up. If you could go to the second slide. The Verde River has strong support among many people, and the Upper Verde River, which is specifically the area in the headwaters to Clarkdale, because of its importance to this region, is eligible to be designated as a wild and scenic river. That's a designation I'll describe in a minute. The local coalition of group that's leading this effort is broad and many. And I also wanted to point out that we currently have in the Verde River watershed the only 2 wild and scenic rivers in all of Arizona, the Lower Verde and the Fossil Creek. So this proposal would add to those designations and more than double the river mileage of wild and scenic rivers in Arizona. Next slide. The proposed designation would include the Upper Verde, 44 miles of the Upper Verde, about 2 miles of Granite Creek in the Prescott area, and 30 miles of Sycamore Creek for a total of 76 river miles. And approximately, that would be approximately 24,000 acres of riverside lands that would fall under the designation. Next slide. So what is the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, and what does this designation mean for us? The Wild and Scenic Rivers Act of 1964 is one of the U.S.'s bedrock environmental laws. It's the highest protection of rivers in the United States. Congress passed the act in the height of dam building, and the point of the act was to create free-flowing rivers that possess nationally significant values. Currently, they're designated in 2 ways, by an act of Congress, or a state can obviously petition if they have already have state-protected rivers, which Arizona does not. To date, the National Wild and Scenic Rivers System includes 226 river segments comprising 13,413 river miles across 41 states and the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. This is actually, these numbers sound large, but it's actually a small amount of the total rivers in the United States that are so protected. The Act protects rivers in 5 major ways. It preserves the free-flowing character. In other words, it prevents dams that require federal permission or federal licensing from being built on the river. The water quality is maintained or enhanced, and it protects the outstanding values unique to each river. When a river is designated for wild and scenic, it's designated based on a set of outstanding values. It creates a junior federally reserved water right, not a senior right, but a junior federally reserved water right that identifies the minimum flow required to preserve those outstanding values. And it creates a comprehensive plan to guide river management over the next 1 to 2 decades. And in doing so, it creates the opportunity for public involvement in river management and provides for monitoring and management. You should know that the Act does not affect existing uses of private property, does not affect existing water rights or grazing permits. Under the Act, the Upper Verde has outstandingly remarkable values for scenery, wildlife, historic and cultural uses, and additional values around recreation and geology. And finally, the river supports a robust river-dependent economy in the Verde Valley, including agriculture, the Verde Canyon Railroad, and other economic values. Designation as a wild and scenic river would protect this scenery, cultural sites, wildlife habitat, and ensure access for recreation, fishing, and traditional uses. And the public, of course, will be involved in all of this. So as I mentioned earlier, currently we're working on building community support through asking for local businesses, holding community meetings, and coming to cities like yours, like Cottonwood, to get this evidence of local support. And then we plan to approach the Arizona congressional representatives, which actually has already begun, to develop the process of beginning to develop the legislation and introduce it at the Congress. So that's my overview of the Upper Verde Wild and Scenic Campaign. In closing, the Verde River and the Upper Verde face unprecedented threats from drought, diminished flow, groundwater withdrawal, pollution, unmanaged recreation, and invasive species. Most of our rivers, especially here in Arizona, have been destroyed, degraded, or no longer flow year-round. Thankfully, the Upper Verde remains a refuge for wildlife and a sanctuary for people to enjoy and appreciate. And I hope that some of you, I hope that all of you either have or will get an opportunity to go hiking or do some sightseeing in the Upper Verde. It is truly a magical and beautiful place. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great. Do we have any questions for Ms. Steele? I have a question on the, oh, I'm sorry. Do you know how much of the Upper Verde flows through private land and how much flows through national forest? I'm guessing the majority of it's through national forest.
The majority of it is national forest. Going to look at Tracy, do you know?
I don't know the exact mileage.
Okay, so we don't know the exact mileage. We could get that to you, but we don't know the exact mileage.
I was just curious. I mean, I
Yeah.
assume that the majority would be through.
Majority is, and also when you designate a river as wild and scenic, one of the federal agencies has to take responsibility for developing that management plan. And as with the Lower Verde and Fossil Creek, it would be the Forest Service that has that responsibility for developing the management plan.
Well, I was comforted to see that Prescott Valley signed on to this as well. I think
Yes.
Chino is going to consider it soon. Is that correct?
And we also are on the agenda for Clarkdale and Sedona, I believe, and Jerome.
Okay, great. Any discussion at all? Did you have a
No.
question? No. Okay.
Yes, you ready for a motion?
Yeah, please.
I move to approve resolution number 3164.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Karat seconded it. Let's have a roll call vote again, please.
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Duvernay?
Yes.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Karat?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilden?
Yes.
And Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Great, very good.
Thank you.
Please read resolution number 3164 by title only.
Resolution number 3164, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, supporting wild and scenic protection for the Upper Verde River and its tributaries.
Great, thank you. Okay, last item under new business is item 3, proposed agreement for the provision of administrative and management services by the city for the 2023 Verde Valley Wine Festival to be held on May 20th, 2023. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Jack Teal, your Parks and Recreation Director. I'm here tonight to discuss a partnership opportunity with the Verde Valley Wine Fest that we have presented to us. In 2021, Council set their strategic goals and their strategic plans for each department with the city and the overarching city organization. Within those plans, they had identified and asked Parks and Recreation to host a large-scale branded wine-themed event. Shortly after that, we got word that the Verde Valley Wine Fest was not married to their location in Clarkdale. So working with their team, they decided to bring that to Cottonwood. So we wanted to partner with them to fulfill that role of that wine-branded theme here within the organization. Their event in 2022 was a much larger success than what anybody had anticipated. Their ticket sales were much larger than what they anticipated, and by all measures, it went really well. There's a couple things that need to be worked on and addressed for future years, but it went really well, and they wanted to continue to keep that event here located in Cottonwood. At the conclusion of their event, they had been working with a private planner contracted by them to run their event. That planner let everybody know earlier in this year that they were no longer going to reprise that role, and so the Verde Valley Wine Fest was looking for somebody to fill in that gap. They have plans to hire a full-time employee to help in these efforts, but that has not come to fruition yet. So working with them, our interest is to continue to make sure that this event happens in Cottonwood, and their interest is to put on that event. So I said, how can we help? How can we work together? So working with them, we came up with this plan that we, Parks and Recreation, have the skill set to administer large-scale events like this as we have done with other ones. So I said, what if we help out with the administration cost? You guys still, it's your event. You brand it, you fill it, you fund it. I'll provide the infrastructure and the administration for it. So they were amicable to that. So they would like to still continue to fund this event, allow us to administer it. They need to sign off on a lot of the things and still have that event, which checks the box of collaborating for success with our city values and the major wine branded theme event that we would like within our city. So that's here for discussion before you tonight. The city does have budgeted $75,000 for Parks and Recreation to put on our own event. If the council chooses that's the way we'd like to go. What we'd like to do is defer that cost from the taxpayers off to a private organization. Save that $75,000, allow them to still keep their control and fill. We have the staff time of administering their event. I've put in your council communication docs that it's about $10,000. I do not think we'll come anywhere close to $10,000. That's the same commitment we had made to them last year when we were in an advisory role, that we would help with your marketing. We would help with whatever infrastructure you needed at the park. I really think that staff time is going to be a lot less, and we don't have any dollars out expended on any of the infrastructure that's needed. They'll pay for the porta pot, they'll pay for security, they will pay for the tents, the reservations, everything you need. We just have the staff time administering that event, and then the staff time day of the event doing this. So that's our request to council, is to consider this. If we do that, we'll get forward working on this project, and another great success, May 20th here in the Verde Valley, and more importantly, in Cottonwood.
So, Mr. Teal, you said you offered administrative staff last year or two when they held the event in Cottonwood?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So making the move from Clarkdale to Cottonwood was a big shift. It's a new park, it's a new location. We're familiar with everything they were doing. So we were in an advisory role, making sure that as city staff, we were helping them have a successful event. So if they needed, so prime example is our public works team. Big shout out to those guys. They did a big beautification project on that park. All those pillars underneath the stage, they sanded and restained. We repainted all the fence that was needing some repair. All the grass looked phenomenal. We blew off all the parking lots, made that area look grand for their big event. We walked them through our temporary use permit processes. We walked them through the state liquor department processes because they hadn't been familiar with those, having to do them in Clarkdale's jurisdiction. So all the things that they weren't familiar with but still needed to get done to host their event, we made sure we were a willing partner and walked them through those. With that, they liked how we were able to assist with them and are comfortable moving forward in a larger way, and still allowing them to keep the look and feel of their event.
So even if their event grows by some margin, 20% say, you feel like you'd still have the staff time and capacity to assist?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The way this is broken down is, first off, I mentioned it had some challenges. The challenges really are the location in Old Town. It's no secret that parking can be a challenge down there. So they had anticipated about 1,500 people. We had to cap their ticket sales at 3,000 because the park it could not handle anymore. So we've moved it to Riverfront Park this year, which allows for a much larger crowd at some of our larger events that you can see. The infrastructure there is a little bit better. So, and because we already do events there, we have a phenomenal blueprint on how to filter people in and out. We've got our safety plans, we've got our parking plans. It's a much nicer area, and it doesn't impact the community that gets displaced when we do large events in Old Town. So we felt that this was a better place, and because of the location, because of the familiarity we have with it, we're able to help manage this. And it won't just be Parks and Recreation staff doing this, and I won't have to call on all city staff like I do for other events. There's obligations into this, so we aren't, the city, when I say we, will not be responsible for their vendors. We will not be responsible for their wineries. They're partnering with another organization because part of their liquor sales go to that organization. So I said, we're happy to help. But whoever is receiving that money should have a larger role in this as well to help make sure that this is a manageable program.
Okay. So go ahead.
So we're just listed as an additional insured? Is that as simple as that?
So yes and no, and we've got a phenomenal attorney here with Justin Pierce tonight. He can correct my language. It might be a mutual indemnification where the risk follows the person who put that on, because we're going to request a certificate of insurance from them, and they're requesting a certificate of insurance from us as well.
Okay. So our investment is just in staff time?
Correct. Yes, okay. Mr. Mayor. The investment would be whatever staff time, and I, as an exempt employee who will be leading this project, that is no additional cost to the city. It would be an opportunity cost. If I'm working on that, I can't be working on other projects, but no dollars expensed for my involvement. And then whatever additional staff I have day of and throughout the efforts of this program, I expect them to be minimal, but as we haven't done it before, I don't have a number in front of me that says, here's what it's going to take.
All right. Okay.
With the move to the new location, I'm assuming that the traffic issue from last year will be null and void down there.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Duvernay, that is our hope. So, as you know, Old Town was a mess trying to get in and out during this event. So one of the primary things we like about Riverfront Park is the infrastructure there for parking. We've got two massive, beautiful parking lots that can house up to 300 vehicles, and then we've got that beautiful open space that we can park however many amount of cars shows up and still have room for parking. I'm fairly comfortable with that. And then the way we organize parking into those, we take them around the corner of 10th Street and not allow the access to the entrances right off of 10th Street. So that way, if there is a backup, it's happening northern and not southern on 10th Street. That doesn't impact the main intersection.
Are we-
Go ahead.
Are we gonna have, I guess for lack of a better way of putting it, bus service like we do at TVR, so people have the option of not necessarily driving to that event?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Curott, we're talking about that. I've had some conversations with Lisa about that already. It's a little bit different because this isn't our event, and we aren't able to utilize funding for outside events like we do for our own events. Because the bus service is federally funded, it's got different obligations, and unless it's truly a City of Cottonwood event, there's different rules that we have to live by. But we do have, Parks and Recreation has our 10 passenger shuttles that we will happily make arrangements for, and then we're working to identify the shuttle service from the parking lot, which is about a quarter mile away, to the event venue. So there will be options. We will make sure that people have options. Another thing with this is the time frame. The event ends at 5 o'clock, and after 5 o'clock is usually when you get those people where it's time to go home. So by doing it and limiting the time frame we're doing, we're hoping for more responsible people to attend this event, but we will absolutely make sure there's a secondary opportunity for people to get home without having to drive.
Thank you.
Great. All right. I was pleased when they decided to move the event to Cottonwood for obvious reasons, but I'm glad that you're working with them to keep the event here and grow it. So, council, any other discussion on this? No? Okay, I'll go ahead and move to approve the Verde Valley Wine Festival event management agreement as proposed.
Second?
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Karat seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Duvernay?
Yes.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Karat?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilden?
Yes.
And Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and
Thank
Council.
you, Mr. Teal. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the monthly financial report for September and October 2022. Any questions on that? Anything that you'd like to bring up? No? Okay.
Nope.
I motion that we pay the claims and adjustments.
Second?
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Cross seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mayor made the motion, Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you, council.